All right, so welcome everybody to our talk, where we're showing off a quantum game that we have created called Quangry Cats. Subtitled this talk, A Paws-on Exploration of Quantum Information Science. So just a little bit of outlining before we start. We have what is Quangry Cats? It is a quantum game that we primarily developed at a hackathon with our quantum computing club at Davis, where we are trying to educate young people about quantum principles in a fun and engaging way, as quantum mechanics can be a very abstract and intangible theory. And so the concepts, you can't really get a grasp on them. And so through a game, we thought it would be a good way to show off this stuff. So first, we'll talk a little bit about our goals with the game, and then we'll go through development, the mechanics, how we involved quantum into it, and then a little bit about the hackathon, publishing it, polishing it a little bit, and then we'll have a demo at the end, and then we'll have time for questions. So why Quangry Cats? We were at the start of the hackathon, we were just throwing out ideas, brainstorming about different games that we could put a quantum twist on, and we landed on Angry Birds as a very established, fun, engaging game with the kids that we could put a quantum twist on. And specifically...
And it made a nice pun.
Yes, Quangry Cats, very good. And so very similar to Angry Birds, you are launching these cats at structures to destroy them. But the twist is we have quantum cats, and they use the Heisenberg uncertainty principle where the position of momentum is uncertain. And then you can exploit that, sort of play around with it, see what sort of outcomes you get based on that. And so a little bit about gamification. It is as I said before, quantum mechanics can be very abstract, unintuitive, and sort of intangible. We're talking about these very small things, the behavior of them, the experiments that you can do are not super like, oh, I see what's going on here. And so having a gamification of that so that you can have a much more intuitive understanding of, oh, I see when I change position of momentum, we have this uncertainty. That is very nice and can help people have more hands-on experience with quantum mechanics. And yeah, we're preparing the minds of the future, and we're trying to get people more engaged with quantum mechanics, especially at a younger age, as it can be, you get bogged down in theory and in math. And so a more, visually, colorful, engaging platform is very nice for teaching the young people.
Yeah, okay, so in late January, we hosted the hackathon, like Andrew was saying, and the goal of the hackathon was to take a classical game and alter it to include quantum principles. And then the games were judged by the UC Davis professor, Isaac Kim, and he does research in quantum algorithms. And then the judging criteria pretty much just involved like quality of the user interface, playability, how well the game demonstrated quantum principles, and how well it functioned as an educational tool. Is this the next slide? No, this is okay. Okay, so after we decided on our game theme and we deliberated on what mechanics we wanted to add, we decided to use Unity for the coding and Krita for the artwork. We chose Unity because it was free and there are lots of resources for learning how to use it. And we chose Krita because it was also free and it was fairly intuitive and easy to use. Andrew and Alex, they did the coding in Unity. They had never made a game in Unity before, but they followed some tutorials to get the hang of things, and they were able to successfully create the game. Design. This is the quantum cat. It's supposed to look like Schrodinger's cat, half dead and half alive. And then I made all of the art for the game with Krita. So the quantum principles we used for this game, they were very well thought out, but we also knew that we could give ourselves an advantage if we spent a lot of time on the art for the user interface. So yeah, I like made multiple stages of decay for each of the building materials and the rats, just like they do in Angry Birds. And it's also worth noting that I drew all of this on my trackpad, and I'm very proud of that. So there's 4 games during the hackathon that were completed successfully: Quangry Cats, Quantum Blackjack, QNect 4, and the Quantum Harmonic Oscillator. And we were the winning team. Yeah. So now I'm going to pass on to Alex.
All right, thank you. So I'd like to talk about the principles of quantum mechanics that we've added to this game, since that's kind of an interesting thing. So in the game, there are 2 types of cats that you can use. There are the classical cats and there are the quantum cats. The classical cats will embody just the classical mechanics. They're pretty high control. You can specify the position and momentum, but we made them lighter and slower so they have less impact in the game, because quantum mechanics actually has a lot of heavy hitting principles that can be used. The quantum cats represent the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So the position and the momentum cannot be known together. And specifically, we have a random distribution that's a Gaussian, and the standard deviations multiply to a constant. That's kind of the main principle we want to make sure we're true to. That being said, we also want to make sure that it's good for the game control. So here we have a GIF. Hopefully you can play. I'm not sure if you'll see it. Okay, I think it's moving. Good. So as you shrink the purple area, which is the standard deviation here of the angle, you'll see that the position, which is the up and down angle, will become more and less uncertain. And we had to make it some game balance things. So we decided we had to make the magnitude of velocity constant, and we used angle instead of actual all 3 dimensions of momentum, because it just made it impossible to play actually. But this is a fun balance. There are 2 variables that have standard deviation that multiply together, so it does embody the Heisenberg uncertainty principle as well. Next, we decided to go for a final polish after the hackathon. We added more levels, fixed the bugs, made a main menu, and then we exported to actually run on browser, which is a big deal for us. Something we thought about from the beginning with Unity. It lets us export it. You can play it on browser. It lets us have a very wide audience. People want to download. We published it on itch.io, which is actually an individual game platform, and it's actually received over 100 views just from people, including quantum mechanics people, but also a ton of people who just found it on the site and decided to play it. And so they're learning about some quantum mechanics already. It's great. Then also we got this great, we showed it on Picnic Day, which had over 70,000 attendance. We had our booth, and we would show, along with Quantum Blackjack, we had some posters and slides for Quantum Angry Birds. We had some demos, and we even, through our work with both of those games, showing them off, we received the Exploring Advancements Award, which is quite an honor for our booth. So it's going really well, and hopefully we can show you now with this demonstration. Let's see. I think I need to exit presenter view, and then some of you can still see, and I'll share sound as well. And we made this kind of video to show you the gameplay. Some interesting.
Wow. I can't believe I'm getting to play Quangry Cats for the first time. This is fantastic. As a big fan of Angry Birds, this is like a dream come true. All right, let's get started.
This man
so we're slingshotting these quantum cats. This feels so familiar, yet completely new and exciting. Look at that. It seems like the cat's trajectory isn't predictable like in Angry Birds. That must be the quantum randomness in action. That's a cool way to introduce such an abstract concept. And look, when I try to pin down this Quangry Cat's position, its momentum becomes less certain. It's like trying to catch a bar of soap. This is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, isn't it? I've read about it before, but I've never seen it in action. Oh, this is brilliant. I feel like a kid in a candy store, except the candy is quantum physics knowledge.
So well said.
Let's try another level. All right, here we go. And? Oh. The Quangry Cat just went through the barrier. That's quantum tunneling, right? Whoa. I always thought that was just theoretical stuff, but seeing it in action here makes it feel more real and understandable. I can't believe how much fun I'm having. And I'm not just slinging cats around, I'm actually learning about quantum mechanics. This is hands down the best way to learn quantum physics, no doubt about it. Who would have thought I'd be understanding quantum superposition and entanglement while having a blast? I'm definitely going to keep playing this game. And the best part? I can see myself getting smarter about quantum mechanics with each level I complete. Learning was never this much fun. Who knew quantum physics could be so exciting? Quangry Cats, you have officially won my heart. This has been a fantastic experience. Quangry Cats, here I come. Onward to quantum mastery.
Thank you, Jonathan. It was very helpful there. All right, thank you so much. I also have some time here for some questions and suggestions. Let me go back to the slides. I'll play it again. All right. Would anyone like to ask any questions about how Quangry Cats works, how we apply it, principle of quantum mechanics, and also if anyone has any suggestions for any updates we want to add? I mean, it'd be so much fun to add more quantum principles to it, and we can always keep developing the game.
Yeah, sure. I have a question. That's
Sure.
all right. So I noticed it looked like when you were shooting it, I couldn't tell if it was if the uncertainty was supposed to be in the up and down position of the cat that you're dragging, and then the angle of the resultant momentum, or if it was actual position momentum uncertainty. I never saw it go off in a random direction or with a different sort of magnitude of momentum than I would have expected. Did you is it genuine X and P, are they conjugate coordinates in which there's the uncertainty, or is it just supposed to illustrate it with the position and angle?
Yeah, we have it illustrating position and angle right now. We did prototype our idea with full two-dimensional uncertainty, position, and momentum. But people became very frustrated when the cats would just not go in the right direction half the time at least. So we had to tune it down a little bit. So we used the standard deviation of the two variables being just y position and the angle. That way, at least you go in the right direction most of the time.
Okay, yeah, I really like that. I can see where really illustrating the actual physics sort of conflicts with the playability of the game. And then you ask for a suggestion. I would say, Skylar says entangled cats. I was going to say the Born principle. When they interact, it should make a measurement, and you get some sort of probability of destroying or not destroying, or something
like a
that.
wave function cat, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good idea. How do you draw? Can you draw a wave function cat, do you think?
Absolutely, it's
Okay,
my job.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, we take suggestions for different quantum principles we can include. Yeah.
Someone raising their hand, go ahead.
I typed my question in the chat.
Chat, okay.
So first, Skylar says.
Entangled cats, sure. I think that's the interesting idea.
Yeah.
We'll have to, maybe you can send us some more ideas on what parts are entangled and how that affects the flinging of the cats. I guess you can have multiple cats.
Mm-hmm.
What's the draw? Let's see.
A second.
The initial connection between Angry Birds and quantum mechanics.
Well, Angry Birds has, once we thought about it, we know that Angry Birds actually has position and momentum. And then also Angry Birds is pretty fun. And it happened to be some tutorials on how to make it. So we figured we could get most of the way there and then learn how to add quantum mechanics while we're learning Unity and programming and get it all done. And we just barely did. It was fun.
Yeah.
We also considered quantum Tetris or Quetris. I like that idea a lot.
We decided, I think, and it's a good thing that we did not go along with quantum Tetris route, which would mean that your pieces randomly decay into different places in different pieces, which
it wouldn't be fun.
frustrating.
It would not be fun, but
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that's it. If you want to play the game, you can go to our link, tinyurl.qcats, or search us up on the internet, or you can go to the itch.io game page. Thank you so much. I'll move on to the next presentation now since we're about done with our time slot. Thank you.
All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Celine Shaw, and today I'll be talking about quantum algorithms and quantum computing algorithms and how they're getting closer to critical problems in computational biology. And just a side note for those of you who don't see the preview of this presentation, I have a confession, and my confession is that I made these slides these mornings and I wasn't sure who the target audience was. So it was a mix of me thinking it's a highly technical and prepared audience versus trying to see if, I'm trying to inspire kind of people who are burgeoning researchers and in the academia or versus kind of building a bridge between academia and industry. So again, sloppy slide work, I know, but I'm a material scientist with a concentration in nanotechnology. And for me, quantum computing goes so much farther than a technical basis. And even though, that's where I started out, but as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of creating this idea of designing for our humanity, creating a consciousness, a material consciousness with light. And computing with light is a very poetic concept, but I aspired to learn machine learning from the brain rather than my computer science background, and was consumed by this idea of creating this beautifully built, almost divine technology that was these extensions of humanities. So in short, the longest time I've been obsessed with the human brain and entanglement. And, you know, this sort of Penrose nonsense is not my background, so don't worry about that. But I would like to work on an invention that not really only incorporates the hardware of BCIs or brain-computer interfaces, but a type of biologically based quantum neuromorphic computer, neuromorphic as in like artificial intelligence, and combine them on a principle that on the basis of entanglement, metrology or sensing technologies, and sensors for the blood-brain barrier, which have always been difficult and I would say are the main impediment for brain-computer interface. So I kind of mediate the impatience with the self-healing rockets and curing cancer. But to be short, I think BCIs are all from a quantum optics. So this is something I wrote past quarter here at UCLA. I shared it with some of my closest friends, mentors, and it kind of gives a skim of the importance behind why, as a material scientist, I believe you need to exist on kind of the cutting edge of hardware and software simultaneously. And self-education, first and foremost, is a really important thing for any legendary creative. Should be a self-learned individual. But anyways, I'm going to skip this just because, and I might come back to it if I feel like there's a lot of technical blur. But yeah, I think nature's intuition has that sort of magical and instantaneous effect. And speed has always been kind of at the forefront for me in quantum computing. Okay, so bringing us back, a lot of biotechnological process has allowed us to access this unprecedented massive amount of data at all levels: molecular, supramolecular, cellular, biological, and a lot of classical computational efforts have been dedicated to the simulation or prediction of de novo design of biomolecules. So in order to improve the understanding of their function, to develop novel therapeutics at a higher level of complexity, the progressive omics disciplines, genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, and metabolomics have prompted researchers to develop informatics to describe and annotate new biomolecules with a resolution to the single cell, very high throughput. But machine learning approaches have been implemented in order to model the studies and high handling of biomedical data. And there's a lot across disciplines, quantum computing approaches kind of this promise to solve, speed up, and refine the analysis of this wide range of computational programs. So here we comment and review the recently developed quantum computing algorithms for biocomputing, such as computational approaches for protein structures and predictions, adequately mounted onto the quantum architectures. And there are a lot of possible advantages for over the counterparts, such as hybrid classical quantum approaches. And this is more realistically applied to biocomputation. Here's the biomolecule landscape. And so as you see as this image here, there's numbers and possible computational approaches for investigation. The hierarchical organization of biomolecules is represented by these dashed arrows, black arrows, linking these three levels of biological complexity. Starting from the bottom, the pink box, the 4 units named nucleotides, amino acids, monodisaccharides, amino acids, monodisaccharides, lipids, and these like constitute the building blocks of biomolecules for nucleic acids and proteins only. Now, the first synthesized linear polymers are represented at the top of nucleotides. And if you're math sci major, they force you to take this whole course on polymers, and it's absolutely wonderful. But for biomolecules, an exoplane 3-dimensional spatial organization is reported as these structures right here in blue, used as RNA, DNA, protein structures, and respectively for carbohydrates, dTran is reported. Now on top, we see so anyways, superimposed on like this whole landscape, the red arrows represent also the computational approaches we dealt with this review, which is the proof of concept algorithms that are quantum algorithms that are recently reported. But why is this important? Biomolecules govern the fate of living cells and organisms, and we're talking really about the main classes of biomolecules. So those nucleic acids and proteins and carbohydrates, lipids, all synthesized by cells by covalent polymerization in the small monomeric units, ultimately forming the carbon-based macromolecules characterized by peculiar nanoscale three-dimensional conformations. And those genomes really contain all the information that's necessary for the cell to produce the proteins. And this is really why it's really, it's exciting, because you get more and more complicated with the human brain. Just to kind of simplify it and go through 4 types of computationals of biomolecular investigation, you have first the sequence analysis algorithms, and these are algorithms that support the analysis of DNA, RNA, or protein sequences stemming from the omics data. And these algorithms are mainly intended just to detect the presence and mapping of the sequence of the genes and proteins, and find the interaction relationships across biological data or across biological samples, different sources. And now the structure and function of predictions algorithms, a highly heterogeneous group of computational methods, I haven't really tapped into it, but these algorithms are developed to predict the three-dimensional protein or RNA structures from the relative amino acids or nucleotide sequence. I guess additionally, these algorithms are also used to predict gene or protein functions using sequences or other features like those annotated in paradigms like gene ontology or IMPS, functional catalog. I think it's also known as FunCat. And this category also includes algorithms developed to complement, improve, and standardize analysis of biomedical image data sets. Third, design algorithms. Those are the group of algorithms designed in silicon protein structures. And finally, multi-scaled modeling algorithms. And those are algorithms to model and simulate molecular structures at a certain time and length and scale. At the finest resolution, relatively small scale systems, up to 10 atoms. It's very useful for nanotechnology and quantum phenomenon in use in general, but larger systems can then be modeled relying on this approximate and simplified description of the models in atoms. And the picture I first showed you, that's one of my inventions I pitched over to NASA and got funding by them. It's called the quantum theremin, and it used kind of the spherical cow model to sense the electric field of the brain. Anyways, let's talk about quantum computing, because I've been talking about biology a lot. So the principles of quantum computing, that's, I guess, like this is this might be the wrong slide to talk about it, but you have a 2 basis state, one zeros and ones, and spheres physically realized. 2 electronic states can be a trapped ion, or 2 quantum states on the superconducting qubits. And in contrast to the classical bit, a qubit can exist in superposition 5, these 2 states described by a linear combination of these 1 zeros. So you can create different gates like Hadamard gates, CNOT gates, etc. And probability conservation implies that the physical states need to be properly normalized into a global phase, and the normalization factor can be considered irrelevant. Now, there are 2 main realizations of quantum hardware: analog and digital. And this is important mostly because my primary work was on quantum dots, and with quantum neuromorphic compute, what was I was going to say something about, what was it on the last slide, maybe? You know what, let's forget about it, because I have, I think, 3 minutes left. But there are digital and analogs, and basically the first case, analog, is a controlled quantum system which resembles a particular case of industry because it's according to its own physical laws. Second case, the states kind of evolve through these programmable series of quantum gates, typically involving 1 qubit or 2 qubit gates at a time. And they experience rapid revolution. So anyone who's interested in artificial intelligence and algorithmic evolution, this is great, because algorithms are really an art in that sense. They evolve like humans. And noteworthy, I think quantum computing has been proposed a lot for computational problems listed above: machine learning, gate-based quantum algorithms, multi-scale modeling of biomolecules, and analysis of the genomics. But these tasks can be performed on most of biological data sets. And in order to improve the performance, it takes a lot of math, Fourier transforms, math. Oh gosh, sorry, I apologize for my cringe, but the machine learning holds a lot of potential for the analysis of complex data, such as biomedical imaging, classification, and different just experimental data sets of samples. So let's say, I guess gate-based quantum algorithms are proposed to address biopolymer conformations, for example. Hybrid approaches combining Monte Carlo and machine learning for protein structure prediction. Another quantum Monte Carlo approach is also this antibody loop modeling and protein design over Grover's algorithm. Gate-based quantum algorithms are also being proposed to address biopolymers transformations. Let's see. And yes, I should talk about that. I think so. This is it's state of the art. It's next generation sequencing, and it's the state of an art technique to sequence DNA and RNA. And the advent of it is essentially, it opens up unprecedented possibilities for dissecting the molecular basis and complex biological processes. So it's a main tool for characterizing genomes, exomes, transcriptomes, metagenomes, what else? Nucleic acids, right? And protein interactions and epigenomic profiles and chromatin conformational states. I'm going to skip because I think this is, there's so much more to it, and I could go on and on and on and talk your ear off about Bracken-Ket notation and different ways to, I think, do this on a theory-based state, because not everyone, I guess I didn't actually start off learning Qiskit or these programming languages for quantum algorithm, but I started more on the mathematical theory side. So there's a lot of promising quantum algorithms out there, and some of the ones I just introduced. This is actually one of the ones I wanted to introduce, but I've run out of time because I did not practice this presentation. And it's just to put it shortly, it's kind of like a self-correcting algorithm, but in quantum language. And the electronic structure of the Hamiltonian can be written approximately as a weighted product of single qubit operations, which it's like individual neurons. So I wanted to propose this whole thing about how quantum dots can be used as artificial neurons for the biological quantum computer. And there's so much about these biomolecular structures and subsystems I could talk about, but I'm going to skip it because I have self-control. So this is an example of the matrices I worked at for my alma mater, or like my university I transferred from, UC Merced. And there's two, there are two solutions have been proposed for, I think, these invisible problems, and Grover and something called key BAM, which is something I discovered while doing my research last night. But yeah, so I'm looking back into materials and seeing, what could this mean for the future of neurotechnology and quantum computing? Because this is a hobby I picked up in high school and somehow consumed me in my research. And there's an ability to generate and analyze big data. And as one of my favorite mathematicians states, either mathematics is too big for the human mind, or the human mind is more than a machine. And even though Penrose was talking about micro quantum tubules in the brain, doesn't physiologically make sense on a cognitive neuroscience level, I think there is kind of, again, bringing us back, all the way back to the beginning. There's an importance when it comes to seeing nature's intuition as this magical and instantaneous effect. And when you think of humanity, you have feelings which are messy and complicated, and we don't understand how to connect psychology to our hardware and how elegant and fast it can be. And if you look at doctors and surgeons, they have to be logical and human and calm and cool and corrected. But that's just it. I think quantum technology and algorithms stand the chance of being more fluid and graceful, applying to not only the way our computers think, but the movements of our soft robotics and other things. So that's all I have for you today. I'm sorry for going over time. And I'm taking questions if you want.
Yeah, absolutely, Celine. Thank you for that awesome presentation. So yeah, questions. Skylar, first, it looks like you have a hand raised.
Oh, should I keep my slides up if anyone?
Up to you entirely.
Actually, I was going to ask you about the slides. So I know that you've been over time, but I really wanted to hear more about how quantum algorithms can be applied to this genome sequencing analysis. So if you would be able to pull up that one slide, I guess, talk about some of the algorithms that could be suitable for that, that would be really great.
Absolutely, Skylar, that's music to my ears. I am a self-confessed, wait, do you see my screen?
Yep.
I don't know what you see. Let's see.
So I'm looking at a slide. I was looking at a slide that says importance in philosophy.
Oh, yeah, let's see. You said you wanted to hear more a little bit about the algorithms specifically meant for quantum computing. Yeah,
Sorry,
there's
for
just so
genome, this is for the genome sequence analysis. I believe it's a few slides further down the presentation. This one.
oh, this one?
No, not the final one. It's the one before. Yeah, the one
Ah.
before. Genome sampling and pattern matching.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot about the complex biomolecular structures, about these subsystems I could talk about, and a lot of the mutual interactions need to be. Okay, so I'll talk about that. So basically, it's this state-of-the-art technique created in order to create sequence the DNA and RNA. And the advent of these NGS techniques are basically that it has a lot of applications for precision medicine, environmental surveillance, rational genetic improvements, and agricultural species. And genomics is actually, I think, the most mature of the omics fields that I think I talked about. Yeah, so it basically implements the highly parallelized sequencing of randomly sheared fragments or reads of DNA and RNA. And so a single experiment on the most modern platforms can generate up to 40 billion short reads. And another metric is around 300 nucleotides long. And I think it's actually revolutionized medical research. I personally haven't worked with it, but I do know that a lot of can you hear my loud neighbors? Anyways,
No,
several genomics associated with technologies have been developed, and it can identify a lot of new genetic variants with complex diseases.
Yeah, so I guess like which part of this analysis pipeline is quantum poised to help with? As somebody who's worked with this genetic data before, just very briefly, like
awesome.
after the read extraction, right? After you extract the sequences from your cells, then there's some process with, say, aligning the reads to genome to kind of reconstruct the sequences that you have, or quantifying a read, seeing how many counts of each gene come from where, or maybe you're searching for the reads in some database, say like the BLAST sequence search. I guess like I guess what did you have in mind for like where quantum can be useful to help improve this genetic analysis, or any part of the genetic analysis, I should say?
Have you heard of the Faragina-Manzini string index by any chance?
No, I haven't.
I think that is this specifically. I think what you're talking about, if I understand correctly, is like how it kind of translates onto quantum computing algorithms. And I think it's that specific string index, and it's based on the Burroughs-Wheeler transform. And that's basically when the reference genome isn't available, it becomes a really difficult problem to be tackled. And so the de novo molecules, and de novo meaning also, in other words, reference-free, assembles to aim and build those long sequences called contigs. And by exploiting the overlaps among the short leads, two basic classical approaches can be developed. So they both rely on graphical representation. You have the overlap layers consensus, OLC, and the De Bruijn graph approach. And let's see. Oops. No. This is actually something you could stare at for a really long time and solve a lot of problems off of. But to go back, the overlap layer consensus, OLC, relies on the construction of a graph, basically, where the graph and nodes represent the reads and edges representing the overlaps. And the weight on the edge represents the length of the overlap. So in abstract, the solution of the assembly problem is given by the max weight of the Hamiltonian path. In other words, I think think of it of like the path that passes through all the nodes of the graph. You know, if you've ever seen those weights, and I'm sure you have, sorry, but yeah, and they maximize the sum of the edge weights. But the Hamiltonian problem is notoriously and computationally complex, NP hard. And so different heuristics are adopted in order to simplify that graph and reach a reasonable solution. And OLC method is a choice for the data sets that consist of those limited number of long reads. And when the number of reads increases, the pairwise comparison of all the reads searches for an overlap, and it still remains a computational bottleneck.
Yeah.
And there's also more on the Brueggen graph, and I like the name because I'm a Bruin technically. So I could talk about that more if you want.
Yeah, if you could send some links for reading in the Discord, that would be
Absolutely.
really
I actually
great.
have a perfect paragraph like written on it. So I'll send that right now. Where should I send it? In the
I think Discord will be good, so there's reference for later.
Yeah, you could post in the hashtag research projects channel in the Discord.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for asking. That's a really great question. I was so sad I didn't get to go into it more, so you warmed my heart. Research projects, okay. Also linking the paper. You know what? I am also thinking to update some of the Wikipedia articles after this on more of this stuff. So these questions are good. They're good prompts for me to work off of.
Fantastic. All right. Do we have any final questions? All right, sweet. I think that's it. Well, yeah, thanks so much.